All right, we're going to kick off now, guys. So thanks so much for everybody that has joined us today. My name's Gabby, and I'm part of the sales team here at Coral Expeditions, based in Cairns, Australia. So today we've also got a couple of amazing special guests joining us later on in the webinar, and I will introduce them a bit later on. So obviously you're all here to talk everything Kimberley. So thanks again for taking the time to join us on our first Kimberley webinar to kick off the season. So we're going to explore basically one of the most vast and ancient natural landscapes in the world. And again, thank you for taking the time to join us. It will take hopefully about 45 minutes. Okay. Perfect. So today's focus, it's taking you on a journey with Coral Expeditions to give you an insight of the Kimberley's vast and rugged coastline, which has been shaped by the powerful forces of nature. The Kimberley is steeped in ancient cultures and is one of the most beautiful and remote wilderness areas in the world. For those of you that are actually new to Coral Expeditions, we have operated for over 40 years now, and it's always with a single purpose, which is to take small groups of like-minded explorers like yourselves to remote places with expert guides, warm Australian hospitality, and most importantly, guidance. So to begin our Kimberley journey today, I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek at what you can expect from one of our experienced expeditions in the remote wilderness of the Kimberley region. So I'm just going to kick off with this video. Enjoy. Wow, pretty incredible. And that's just 2 minutes of what you guys could experience on the 10-night Kimberley cruise. So you can really see why the Kimberley is such a bucket list trip. It's a trip of a lifetime, really, which is going to leave you with memories that you're going to have to last a lifetime. So in the 90s, Coral Expeditions, we actually completed our first Kimberley voyage, and the first ever, expedition cruise operator to explore the region. So out of the 40 years that Coral have been operating, 30 of those years we have been exploring the Kimberley. So being one of the original Australian flagged expedition pioneers, this has actually allowed us to create the perfect expedition cruise the Kimberley has to offer. Our expert guides and our crew, they will always share their expansive knowledge and their passion for this region from their many, many years of experience. A lot of them have actually worked for Coral for over 20 years. So in the Kimberley, knowledge and experience is everything. So given the huge tidal flows and the fact that most of the region is uncharted and so remote, this is very important on your expedition. So all of our vessels, they're Australian flagged. So this means we spend more time in the Kimberley. We have the best local knowledge and we don't need to spend your valuable time travelling out into international waters like a lot of the other foreign lines do. Our vessels are all operated by Aussie and New Zealand crew, and you'll get to experience the ultimate warm Australian hospitality throughout the voyage. So this might be enjoying a nice ice cold beer or a glass of wine, like you can see in this image on Veranda Beach with sand in between your toes, watching one of the famous Kimberley sunsets. Or it could be on board. So on board our vessels, we always encourage a natural Australian service and an open interaction between all of our guests and our crew. So it's one where you can watch your dinner being prepared in the galleys by our awesome chefs, or you might even go into our bridge, have a chat with the captain, take your morning cuppa up there, watch the sun come up and get the run through for the day. It's basically just a true expedition style trip. Okay, so all of our vessels, basically, we've got 3 vessels in our fleet. They're all Australian flagged expedition ships. They are designed for the Kimberley region. They feature wraparound decks, private balconies on some of our staterooms, and lots of outdoor dining so you can enjoy those Kimberley sunsets. The shallow drafts and high movability of our purpose designed expedition ships. This lets you get closer on our coastal adventures. It lets you explore those sheltered bays and hidden inlets, which are inaccessible to a lot of the larger ships. Now, as I said, we've got 3 ships in our fleet. The first one I'm going to talk to you about today is Coral Discoverer. So Coral Discoverer is our yacht-like vessel, which has 36 staterooms with a maximum of 72 passengers. So Coral Discoverer is now 15 years old. She recently just had a refurb in December last year, and is loved by all of our regular travellers. Because she's got that nice intimate feel with the smaller numbers, it really is something special. So Coral Discoverer is mainly domestic focused. So when she's not in the Kimberley, she heads up to Cape York, Arnhem Land and the Torres Straits, the Great Barrier Reef, and also Tassie does the Tasmania season each year as well. Now, the next one in our fleet is Coral Adventurer, which started operating in 2019. So slightly bigger, with 60 staterooms, a maximum of 120 passengers on this ship. There is a very similar design across all 3 of our ships. And as I said, they're all purpose built for expeditions. On the Coral Adventurer, there is 2 large 55 square metre suites on board and a lovely range of outdoor dining and indoor dining as well, and lots of areas that you can enjoy those beautiful views along the voyage. So outside the Kimberley, you'll find that Coral Adventurer travels to Papua New Guinea, Japan and the Philippines, and also other parts of the West Coast Australia. Now, our third and newest ship in the fleet is Coral Geographer. So Coral Geographer is a sister ship to a Coral Adventurer, which we're just looking at. And so as well, South Australia, New Zealand, and our newly released subantarctic voyage. So all of our ships' staterooms have outward facing rooms, so you never miss out on the views, and lots of plenty beautiful alfresco areas to enjoy some outdoor dining. All of the rooms are also twin share, and we do have the option for solo travellers on board all of our vessels as well. Okay, so for our shore excursions, we use our Explorer tenders, which you can see in the image here, or we like to call them the safari jeeps of the sea. So these are super cool, heaps of fun, purpose built for our shore excursions. How they operate is on a hydraulic launching mechanism. So basically they're on a platform behind the ship. All the passengers can just simply step on. They're lowered down to the water and then you're off on your journey with under 5 minutes. They can take the ship's full capacity. So on Coral Discoverer, our smaller vessel, we have one, and on our larger vessels, we have two. So nobody's left behind, no one's waiting. And as you can see in the image, open views for all passengers, fully air conditioned, and they have a covered roof from the weather. There is a toilet on board as well for emergencies, padded seats, so you've got that nice extra comfort, and they are decked out with a full audio system, so you don't miss out on any of the commentary along the way. They are set up for wet or dry landings as well, just with a ramp at the front, which is very easy to step on and off. Now, we also have our Zodiacs, which are really cool as well. We will use these on shore excursions where possible, depending on the areas that you're in. So basically, it's just another exciting way that you can get close to nature, navigate any of those narrow inlets and waterways that might not be accessible in our Explorer tenders. Okay, so Coral Expeditions, it was one of the first cruise operators to employ interpretive guides on our cruises, a tradition that continues today. So each trip includes a mix of our full-time guest lecturers who join the expedition team and special guest lecturers who are chosen for specific local knowledge. They immerse our guests on the unique wildlife in environments we visit, and that's really what expedition cruising is all about. It's learning and part of the expedition. So having guided expeditions in the region for over 3 decades, we know the nooks and crannies that a lot of the others don't. So our expedition team provide local expertise with a strong understanding of the unique landscapes, the flora and fauna, indigenous cultures of the regions that we're visiting, which is very important. Our passionate expedition leaders, they're always on board and take our guests on every excursion. So we never have to hand over to any land-based tour companies. We always aim for 2 shore excursions every day where possible. Now, with the shore excursions, they might be from something that's quite easy, a nice flat coastal beach walk, or it might be something that's a bit more challenging with a steep incline, and it might be up to a few kilometres to a nice scenic point or something like that. Okay, so we are going to watch another video. I do understand, I've just been told that some of you are struggling to hear and watch the video. So hopefully this one might be a little bit better. It's not as long. And yeah, and then we'll continue on anyway with the presentation after this video. So this video is of Jamie Anderson. So Jamie Anderson is one of our longest serving expedition leaders. He's been with Coral Expeditions for over 20 years. And it's just really to give you an insight of Jamie's knowledge of the Kimberley. You can see how passionate he is and just an insight from an expedition leader. Great. Well, that was just a little insight of Jamie Anderson, as I said, one of our expedition leaders. And we're really pleased that he did choose to give Coral Expeditions a go 20 years ago and still working with us now. A lot of our passengers that have travelled with us before are probably quite familiar with Jamie, I'm sure, and have a few stories with him. And you might actually be familiar with our next speaker, who is Ian Morris. So Ian Morris is one of our guest lecturers, who's actually been working for Coral Expeditions for over 35 years. We're so excited that he's here in person in Cairns with us today, and he's going to run you through some of the icons of the Kimberley and what you can expect on our 10-night Kimberley cruise, which goes between Darwin and Broome or vice versa, and departs between April and September on board all three of our vessels. So over to Ian.
Hi, folks. Yep, my name's Ian. I live in Darwin. I've been lucky enough to work for Coral for quite a long time now. And I know a lot of you are keen to see this amazing bit of remote coastline. Every trip I do, out of literally hundreds, is different to the last one. And I never know what to expect in terms of wildlife because there's so much going on. So it's still just as exciting for me, 23 years later. On each successive voyage. So not only do you see a great bit of the Australia's most remote coastline and most scenic coastline, but you actually get to meet the plants and the animals, and you have a sort of personal relationship develop during your trip, which I'm sure you'll never forget. And our job is to help you to put together all the pieces of the natural picture, the geology and geomorphology of the place, which is amazing, right up into the human history, when people arrived and what did they do and where did they go. You'll be seeing beautiful natural art sites, which are libraries for these Indigenous people going well back, like well beyond 20,000 years. And it's not just one race of people, it's quite a complex human picture that we try to expose to you while you're going along. We actually get to meet some of these people too, the modern day Indigenous gang, who are very proud of this place and enjoy joining in with us and sharing their experiences and things. So it's quite a unique, it's another world in a sense. And we just love showing it to people. And we get a lot of guests who come back again and again. They just can't get enough of it. And every time they come, they get another aspect. It's a bit like us staff members. So it is a unique place. And we're lucky enough to, all Aussies, we're all mates, and we all have a good time. You end up like a big family at the end of these trips, which is also a really a nice personal thing to happen. So what we're looking at here is this beautiful old rocky plateau that's been elevated way back in history up to well over 100 metres, as you can see with those rock walls there. We're going up to King George River, and we're looking at a beautiful waterfall that flows for most of the dry season. And our tourist season, the time we're in the Kimberley, is from about the end of the wet season right through till about October. That gives us a lovely long dry season of beautiful clear weather, calm seas, and puts you in a good position to be able to observe and enjoy this spectacular stuff. So that's old sandstone you're looking at. And also in that river, big tidal river, is a lot of wildlife that is quite used to us now because they don't get harassed or worried. And some of the large dugong and crocodiles, stingrays, all sorts of things will allow us to go quietly right up close so people can get good photos and learn the more personal details of these things you won't see anywhere else in Australia. Okay, there's Jamie explaining some of the human history in one of the many art sites that we visit. And that particular art is so old that there's no paint left on those rocks. It's a stain from the iron in the old ochres. And it's between about 10 and about 20,000 years old. So that puts it in a pretty amazing position as far as human history on this planet goes, to be able to go back that far. And so we do have information on what a lot of these strange old paintings mean and how relevant they are today. but it gives us a window into Australia's human history that puts us well back, probably as old as it gets on the planet. So it's great to be able to visit these places and go right in and see this stuff face to face. Take your photos. The local Indigenous traditional owners, they're happy for you to enjoy their art galleries. And as you can see there, Jamie's busy explaining some of the finer details of what you're looking at. This is way up on top of the plateau where the wet season rainfall accumulates and then it flows over these magnificent little creeks and down the escarpment face and into the salt water. So Mitchell Falls does that. All through the wet season, there's large amounts of water from the monsoons flowing off that hard sandstone top and down these beautiful falls. So we do get a chance to get out there and look at these amazing places. We need a helicopter to get into this particular spot, but we have access to that. So when you finish your Kimberley trip, you've seen some of the best and most remote parts of natural Australia. Also, once the water has flowed from the rocky escarpment down into the valleys, what you're looking at here is a beautiful accumulation of natural resources. Mud is the product of the wet season water flow, erosion that accumulates in these big bays. And there we have, on top of that mud, we have some of the best developed mangrove forests in the world. The only more complex forests of mangroves are up in New Zealand, are up in Indonesia, just north of us, where those forests got a few more species of trees, but ours are fantastic. This is the natural habitat of all sorts of wildlife. And Parosis Creek that we're looking down on there now with the explorers going up the little side channels, we're able to see all sorts of things from 4-metre crocodiles right down to the cute little mud skippers that live at low tide along the edges of the water. So amazing places, bird calls, species of birds and animals there that you won't find anywhere else in Australia. So it's unique in all aspects. Another place where the water flows off the plateau over the escarpment and straight into the saltwater. And this is called King Cascade, named after one of our early pioneer navigators, Philip Parker King, way back in 1820. And so we're able to take the explorers right up the river, the Prince Regent River, to visit this cascade. And it's just a beautiful place. And again, wildlife all around us. So there's always something new to see. There's a big old crocodile lives there. He loves meeting us and swimming around, getting his photo taken. He's been doing it for as long as I've been going there. So there's some unique things that you just won't get anywhere else. And here's a big old boab tree. And it's in my lifetime, I've watched it get bigger and split into two parts. We had a cyclone go through there once and made it split further apart, and then it healed itself and grew back together. We call it the mermaid tree, and it was inscribed by that early navigator I just mentioned, Philip Parker King, in 1820 when he careened his vessel on the sandy beach nearby. And we can put our explorers on that beach and take everybody for a walk up and see this historic tree with the markings of one of our first and most famous navigators, Philip Parker King, inscribed on it. It's got there, HMC Mermaid 1820. And it was once horizontal, that writing, and the tree's grown much bigger and it's now at different angles. Great place to visit. Here's another feature, and this is a result of sea level rise from about 12,000 to about 4,000 years ago, and a big sandstone plateau went under the ocean. And on top of it grew a coral reef that is massive now, massive in area. We call it Montgomery Reef after the surgeon on Philip Parker King's vessel. And we can go right up the drainage channels on this massive coral reef and again get right up next to all the little organisms that built this reef. At high tide, it goes underwater, and at low tide, there's about 400 square kilometres of exposed coral surface there. And there's nothing like it anywhere else in the world, the biggest platform reef in the world. And so, yeah, another privileged visiting point. And you've probably all heard of the horizontal waterfalls. You sort of wonder to yourself, how can a waterfall be horizontal? Well, What happens here is we've got such massive tides in the Kimberley that as the tide is coming in up to almost 13 metres tidal range sometimes, so this massive amount of water squeezes through this narrow gap in this ancient old King Leopold mountain range and makes these phenomenal currents. And we get to jump into the rubber ducks and the other vessels, and we can roar through this raging current and really experience the power of nature. And you're also looking at spectacular scenery at the same time and hanging on very tightly. It's a great experience. As we move around the Kimberley coast, we see a lot of beautiful formations in the old rock. This is really, in Earth history terms, this stuff is old. And there you can see in what was once horizontal strata in sedimentary rock has somehow been heated and pressurized and pushed and twisted till it's got a great big curve in it. Now that was layers of silt once. So you can imagine the Earth's forces needed to produce landscape like this. And all the way along the coast, we see examples of this, like Nares Point here. And on the offshore islands in the Kimberley, low, again, sandstone islands, well away from the coastline, well away from major predators like crocodiles and sea eagles and things, we get a lot of seabirds, as you can see in this picture, which come out there to breed. And here on the Lacepede Islands, after southern part of the Kimberley, we see many species of spectacular seabirds, those brown boobies, as you can see, flying above the Explorer. They're in for the time, raising their chicks. But it's a bit like the Galapagos. Constant species of birds are coming, laying their eggs, raising their chicks and going back out to sea, and they're replaced by other species all throughout the season. So whenever we go there, we see a different range of birds and turtles nesting and all sorts of things out there of great interest. Okay, here's some more things. There's a happy little freshwater, a saltwater crocodile sitting on the tidal estuary there. That'll be in Porosis Creek, allowing everybody to take photos of it in its natural habitat. Got the rainbow beater, which is a migratory native species of bird in Australia, and they arrive at the Kimberley from Southeast Asia early in the season. We see them sitting on the twigs looking down at us, wondering what we're doing. And so, yeah, it combines the natural species with this stunning scenery. You just don't know where to point your camera. There's so much to take in. I'm still taking photos after 23 years that I've always wanted to take, but I've never been at the right time at the right moment. And eventually you get the chance to do all these things. But you've got to have a camera and you've got to have it ready because so many things happen spontaneously as you're traveling around this amazing place.
Perfect. Thanks, Ian.
No worries.
Well, thanks so much, Ian. That was a really great insight into what you can expect on the Kimberley. And I think it's safe to say that we all know we'd be on good hands with Ian on the voyage, especially when he's seen a boab tree split in half and grow back together again. He's been visiting for a long time. All right, so I've got one last video for you guys to watch, and this is just going to give you a little glimpse again and a recap of what you can expect on our 10-night Kimberley voyage. It's also going to give you an opportunity to just type in any of the questions that you might have. And if you did actually ask a question when you registered, we do have those questions and we will answer them at the end of the webinar. Okay, great. So I'm now going to hand you over to our second special guest. We have the lovely Jeremy from our reservations team coming in live with us as well today. So Jeremy is going to chat a bit about how you can book and a little special offer we've got for everybody watching today as well. Over to Jeremy.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'd like to thank you all for joining us as well. It's really a pleasure to have you all here. It was really great listening to Ian and his expert advice. So thank you for joining us, Ian, here in Cairns. Yeah, as Gabby went through this morning, we have the one office in Cairns up in far north Queensland, and we are a small reservations team that you'll be able to reach on the phone if you have any questions about any of our itineraries. Or if you would like to join us, you most definitely can give us a call to book in, or we also have our live availability on our website that you can view. It has our dates of all departures and the pricing all online. Likewise, if you have a favorite travel consultant, they are able to package all this together with your flights and accommodation and our cruise being the highlight there as well. Something that we have on offer, just very hot off the press right now, is our newly released Kimberley offer. What we have on for this promotion is a $500 per person travel credit. So just give us a call or your travel agent a call and they'll be able to run through all the details of this. Also included is our deposit protection plan. Now, this is usually $110 per person, but during this promotion, we're giving this for the complimentary, and that way this gives you the confidence to book, and that way if you need to make any amendments, you're able to transfer that deposit that you put onto the booking to a new booking if you're unable to make your current voyage. This has to be a new Kimberley booking for the 2023 season. It does need to be booked in by the 30th of June. This booking can be done for any of our Kimberley dates in the 2023 season, but the promotion just finishes at the end of June. You have to have the Kimberley 2023 promotion, so you can quote that over the phone if you're dialing to us. We have a section on our website where you can put that in if you're booking online, or just make sure you advise your travel consultant the Kimberley 2023 promotion. The best way to get in contact with us is on our phone, 1800 079 545. Again, that's 1800 079 545. We do have an email address. It's the word explore@coralexpeditions.com, or again, you can go to your travel agent. I'd like to hand back to Gabby. That's everything from me. Thanks, Gabs.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeremy. So we're going to kick off the question and answer section now. I might start off with the season. So Ian, would you be able to tell us a bit about the different seasons and when people might expect to see whales or waterfalls and things like that in the Kimberley?
Can do. People often ask me, what's the best time to book on a trip along the Kimberley coast? Well, we have a season that extends from the end of March right through till almost the beginning of the next wet season in October. And really, to my way of thinking, I travel every month all the time. They're all good. And there's always something different to see as the seasons progress. So the wet season itself ends in about early April, the last few storms, which are spectacular. We like seeing those from the vessel. And then it goes to cooler nights. It's quite a beautiful climate in Australian terms for the next few months, right through till about August. And then August, it does get warmer overnight. But with the change of seasons comes a whole lot of things in nature. Things wake up. So after the wet season, we see water everywhere. Waterfalls are thundering, water lilies are flowering. It's really a big product of the wet season we can see in the early dry season. Then as the months progress, we start to see humpback whales turning up from down in the Antarctic. Females first, they come up to have their calves, then the males follow them a month or so later and start performing and showing off to each other. And that can be quite spectacular from the railings of our vessels, watching the whales compete with each other at quite close range. We see dugong sometimes on our excursions in the rivers, which are big old relations of elephants, really. Can't see them in other parts of Australia as easily as we do in the Kimberley. And some unique types of dolphins. as we continue on, we see lots of little baby hatchling saltwater crocodiles that have come from the wet season nesting that's taken place. We see those in the shallows learning how to catch fish and whatnot. And the nice thing is with our Explorer craft, we can get right in close. So you can sort of take nice close-up photos from the comfort of a shady seat, which you can't normally do in nature. So we've got a lot of advantages. So virtually every month of our season in the Kimberley is a good time to go because there are different things to see. It never stops.
Great, thanks so much, Ian. And while we've got you, what about why should people choose expedition cruising, and what sort of mobility levels do you think that people should have?
Well, expedition.
Oh, expedition.
Expedition cruising is quite unique because you're basically a bunch of people and you're learning about the landscape, the ocean, the land, and all its natural environments and habitats. You sort of, it's a way to connect with our continent. What's unique about the landscape around us. So expedition gets us right in there. You're not drinking martinis on deck 5 every night. You're out there meeting the wildlife, experiencing the beautiful evening breezes and new growth on the trees. It just never stops. It's just so much to see. So you're just connecting with nature, and in a unique way.
Great. And another question for you too, Ian. Is there any difference between passengers that depart from Darwin or Broome?
Again, that's a question I get asked a lot, but no, I don't think it matters. Either way, what actually happens is over the 10, 11-day period, you sort of grow into it, whether it's from Broome or from Darwin. And by the time you get to the other end, you've developed a knowledge of the landscape in all its aspects. And personally, I don't think it matters which way you go.
Yep. Fantastic. All right, we've got a couple of reservations questions, so I'll pass back over to Jeremy, and Jeremy's going to go through a few reservations questions with you.
One of the questions that come up was about the helicopter flight over Mitchell Falls that you saw at the plateau during the webinar there. Now, this is not included in the cruise fare. However, you have a nice information session on board during the voyage, and that way they go through everything that you're going to be seeing during the time there, and you have the opportunity to book and pay on board. If you want to let us know in the reservations team that you'd be interested in this, we can always note this in the booking, and then that way that goes to the crew on board. However, everything will be organised and paid on board. It is approximately $700 per person, so that is bookable and payable on board. As I said, you can let us know if that's of interest. Another question that's come up is about the current promotion that we have. This is for brand new bookings starting from today. So if you're going to be making a new reservation for our Kimberley voyages throughout the 2023 season, just give us a call or an email or contact your travel agent and just provide them with that promotional code Kimberley 2023. Another offer that's on board is with this promotion as well that I did actually forget to mention beforehand. You will receive 4 GB of complimentary Wi-Fi on board. Now, we do sort of suggest to just switch off as much as you can and enjoy the Kimberley and all the expedition leaders and the guest lecturers. You're in a fantastic part of the world, but part of this promotion is the Wi-Fi, up to 4 GB of Wi-Fi there. It is a bit hit and miss at times when we're going to some really remote locations, so just keep that in mind. But once you get the opportunity to check your emails from time to time and do your social media posts telling everybody where you are for the 10 nights, you have that Wi-Fi on board as well. I think that covers all the reservation questions. I'll hand back to Gabby.
Great, thanks so much, Jeremy. All right, well, that wraps up the webinar, everybody. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you do have any other questions, just reach out to our reservations team, or again, pop them in the chat question before we finish up now, and we can send you an email afterwards. If any of your friends or family wanted to join in to the webinar and they missed out today, our next one will be next week, Thursday, the 23rd of February, and it will be 11 a.m. So we are based in Cairns, so that is Brisbane time. So 11 o'clock. Okay. Thank you again so much for your time. And if you did want a recording of this webinar, we will upload it to our website and we can email out as well. So again, you can pop your email address in the chat or contact us directly and we'll send a link for that. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy your Kimberley cruise.